Sacha, how you doing?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm good, mate. Who are you suing this week?
My name is Nik Nagarkar and you are locked into Culture TV. For the culture, by the culture. Let's go.
So I've become quite bothered, you may have noticed, over the last 14 months with some silly decisions the government have made.
Yeah.
You know, the 10 p.m. curfew, nonsense. You know, we, as an event organiser, Parklife, every single year I'm asked, how do you push 80,000 people out at once? And you can't, you have to stagger it, stagger an egress, you create that.
Well, it's common sense, isn't it? That if you put thousands of people out from pubs, restaurants, bars, whatever, at 10 p.m, there's going to be a huge crowd of people able there to spread whatever around.
Exactly. So they did more harm than good.
So what data did they base that on?
Nothing. It was a policy decision. There was no scientific evidence whatsoever. And this has been my gripe the whole time. You know, if you're going to make a decision, show us the hard evidence. And if you can, then fine. But don't make a decision that's going to affect jobs and businesses without any evidence.
So what I didn't understand about that, and I'm sure will have researched into this a hell of a lot more than I have. So a decision to close everything at 10 p.m. was made.
Yeah.
What processes or steps of any form of common sense, and who was responsible for making those decisions to come to that conclusion that to kick everybody out of?
It was someone in the cabinet. It was that high up. And they'd seen another country do it. I thought, well, if it's good enough for them, we'll do it in England. That was it. Literally, that was it.
If it's good enough for John, we'll do it over here.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. So it was stupid. We pushed hard. They dropped it. First judicial review against the Scotch egg rule, the substantial meal, compelled them to drop that.
Yeah. And did they admit that there's no evidence for this? Or
they had to in the end. Yeah, they had to supply evidence. That's a good thing about judicial review. It's like, come on, what have you got then? Show us. And then when you see it, like, well, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been busy.
So what's the next step?
Well, the next step for me personally, or for nighttime economy.
For nighttime economy.
It's just, there are so many businesses that have sadly been lost.
Yeah.
So many jobs that have been lost.
Yeah.
I think the good news is, for once we can say that we've got something that's world leading.
Yeah.
It wasn't the app.
Yeah.
So the vaccine rollout.
Definitely wasn't the app.
And it wasn't. So the vaccine rollout is phenomenal.
Yeah.
No, hats off the NHS, the science volunteer. Amazing. So
I feel like that's the one thing that out of this whole chaos and terrible way they've dealt with the pandemic, it's the one thing that they've kind of got right. But I also feel like, I don't know if you would agree with me on this, but I feel like they've made so many horrific mistakes, one after the other. It was like common sense. Someone with common sense came into the government in like January and said, right, close everything until we've got people vaccinated and we'll be the first ones out of this.
Absolutely. No, I agree. And there will be a moment, and it's not now, because now is all about recovery, getting back to normal.
Yeah.
I think we've got to do it quickly, because I think we're going to be hit with a mental health pandemic.
Yeah.
I'm speaking to friends who are breaking down in front of me, freelancers, people like that who create the festivals. And they're in a bad way. People lost their homes, their relationships, their livelihoods. So we need to get over that. Yeah. And then there's going to be a moment to sit back and actually scrutinise what they did, they did wrong.
Yeah.
And, there is a domino effect. It really is.
And do you think that moment will come to actually really scrutinise and the government for how they've dealt with this? And is there an ability for there to be any consequences for this?
Well, there is. The next time's an election. But yeah, I'm not good. Once we're through this, myself, other people from the industry, we're coming together. We're not going to let them get away with what they've done for hospitality. Yeah. And then you've got, people like Andy Burnham who are holding the government to account, not just for Greater Manchester, but for the whole of the UK. We've seen how he stands up and fights against them when they're wrong. And quite rightly, when they do something right, he agrees with them. But there's going to be a moment, definitely.
You've become the voice almost. I know you're the advisor for the nighttime economy to Andy Burnham. I know you've been doing that for a few years. But I feel like over the past 12 months, you've sort of become the voice for like the nighttime economy for the UK. Would you say that, like, was that an intentional decision on your part to try and do that, or do you think you've just sort of fell into that?
No, it wasn't intentional.
Yeah.
When we went into lockdown 1, we started United We Stream.
Yeah.
And over a 10-week period, I don't know if you remember what we did there.
Yeah, it was big. It was big. That wasn't the first one.
We had 20 million viewers over 10 weeks. We raised £600,000, and I was looking forward to giving that money out to people.
Yeah.
The moment when the grant applications would come in, it wasn't me handing it out. There was a committee of people.
Yeah.
But reading some of the stuff that was coming in was really pulling on my heartstrings, and I wish I hadn't seen that. And I don't have a pub, I don't have a bar.
What sort of stuff were you seeing coming in?
Just, as I mentioned, the freelancers who've had no support whatsoever from the government. They've gone from earning a decent wage one week to literally nothing.
Yeah.
And it was heart-wrenching, the stuff I was reading.
Yeah.
So, I made a decision at that point that when we come out of this, and we are coming out of it, could I look at myself in the mirror and say, I fought for these people. I had a platform to start with. I want to use that platform to actually fight for what's right, what's right for the sector, for the industry. And I feel once we're out of this, I'll be able to look at myself in the mirror and say I did everything I can.
Yeah.
Every day feels like an uphill battle, and I know I come across moany and and annoying, but I'm not bothered if I annoy people. It does not bother me in the slightest. I don't
know if it comes across annoying. I think it comes across like you actually give a shit.
Yeah, well, there is. I'm glad we can swear on this, but I really do give a shit. And there are people that troll me along the way, and it doesn't bother me in the slightest. I've got broad shoulders, and I will just carry on fighting for what I think's right. What
do you think? Will we get back to normal?
I think we will, and I think very, very quickly as well.
Do you?
I think the customer. Well, we've seen, haven't we? When you could go to the beer gardens, we've seen how busy they were.
Yeah, they feel normal.
After 3 or 4 pints, yes. But when you first walk in, it's very clinical.
Yeah, it's a bit static, isn't it?
It is.
In that first instance of getting in.
But then you get used to it.
Yeah. And you can almost sense the caution in the air, can't you?
There is caution. And, we have to act at the moment with measures in place, because the worst thing that could happen is we're going to another lockdown.
Yeah.
But I don't want that to be the normal.
No.
When we're being told 21st of June there will be no measures in place and it's back to normal, that's what I want, and that's what I'm expecting.
Do you think that will happen?
I'm really hoping so. The data is telling us absolutely. Yeah. And I'm going back to this hard evidence again.
Is this down to the vaccine?
It is down to the vaccine, yeah. I think it's down to the vaccine. The top 9 categories have been vaccinated. Yeah. The most vulnerable have been vaccinated. Yeah. There is herd immunity thrown into it.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's important because we're seeing the stories now of people who are missing cancer treatment because, they didn't want to go to hospital in case they caught COVID. And so we have to very quickly get back to normal. And, when you look at Parklife, that I can speak personally about, the fact that we sold 80,000 tickets in 78 minutes, I think shows the appetite to get back to normal.
So people who've bought tickets to come to Parklife, are they going to get that same Parklife experience that they always had beforehand?
Absolutely. It's going to be no social distancing.
Yeah.
There's going to be
no masks.
No masks, no social distancing. It's going to be absolutely just normal.
Amazing.
And the next day people will complain to me.
Yeah.
They'll be trolled for queues.
Oh, you'll be trolled for everything.
Portaloos, price of beer.
Yeah. But you want that. That's the trolling you want.
Bring it back to normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it now. Like why can you say this, but you charge £10 for a res? I don't charge £10 a res, but I never have done.
No, that's amazing. And in 78 minutes, you sold out the
78
tickets.
minutes. We thought it was a mistake, so we knew that.
You thought it was a glitch in the system.
We thought there's no way Ticketmaster have sold 80,000 tickets in 78 minutes, and they had done. And that's not just Parklife.
Yeah.
Creamfields, Leeds, Reading, they all sold out in super record time.
And do you think those festivals will follow suit like Parklife and be exactly like they were?
Yeah, they're before us as well. They're August Bank Holiday.
Wow. Which number Parklife is this? How many have you done now?
So we started Platfields 2010. So
2010 Platfields?
Yeah, 2010.
I remember that. Wow.
Do you?
Yeah. Wow.
One day, 20,000 people. And the night before we had Ian Brown.
Wow. Was that 2010?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. I didn't have any grey hair then. I've got the odd one or two now.
How did you get into promoting?
So it's a long story. So I went to a good school by Plattfields, actually. I went to Manchester Grammar. But when I was in the sixth form, it was the explosion of what we know as the Manchester period. Factory Records, Stone Roses, Happy Mondays, New Order, Hacienda nightclub.
Right.
And
so you were around back then?
Yeah.
Were you?
Yeah. So I went to Hacienda in 1989.
Right, okay.
First time. And in fact, the first time all the cool kids at school were talking about this venue, Hacienda, and I thought, well, I need to get in there. So I borrowed my dad's suit and shirt and tie, got to the door, and the doorman, who were tasty, said, nah, that's not happening. And I looked at everyone in the queue, so the following week I got in with just jeans and a t-shirt. And I remember walking into there, and I was with my best friend at the time, a guy called Pete Armstead, and I think the capacity was 1,1700. And it was the time of acid house music. And we both looked at each other and was like, these people are mental. They were doing this dance, like throwing their arms in the air. And like, there's no way we're doing that. And half an hour into it, we were doing it on the dance floor, that dance. And the atmosphere just took us away. It was electric. I've never experienced anything like that before. It was 6 months later we found out we were probably the only ones that hadn't taken ecstasy. But the energy that was in that room. And don't forget, that was the first, I'd been going to clubs where the DJ would play a few records, then introduce the next record, and then introduce, I found a lost wallet on the floor, is Eric in the house, that sort of thing.
Oh really? Is that what they were like?
That's what they were like, and this was the first time the DJ didn't speak. The music just went straight the way, the mixing, I'd never seen or heard it before. And that just caught me. And I left school, I didn't have any full qualifications, didn't go to university. And my parents weren't too impressed. And I was working in a clothes shop in Altrincham that was the original Flannels. And I was earning 20 quid a day, and these people were coming in and spending 80, 100 pounds on jeans. And I was thinking, how can you spend 4 or 5 times what I earn in a day on a pair of jeans? So I thought maybe the shop, working in a clothes shop's not for me. And I thought, I'm going to put a party on. And I actually did. I went in deep. And it was the 4th of July 94. It was at the Hacienda.
That was your first show?
My first show,
At the Hacienda?
At the Hacienda.
Wow.
First event.
Acid house, or would it be jungle?
No, it was house music.
House music,
But I did go to a jungle night at Hacienda. Scared the shit out of me.
It was mad, the jungle nights back then. Well, I was too young for them, but I remember having the tapes from like Telepathy. I had a couple of trigger tapes from the Hacienda actually when I was a kid. But yeah, the jungle nights back then were...
Well, I'd gone out one night with Angela Matthews, who's the manageress at the Hacienda, and her husband Billy at the time. They're not together anymore. And they said, we've gone for a few drinks, and it's like, where can we go now? In those places, venues, your bars used to close at 11, or go to the Hacienda. I think it was a Monday night. And I never asked what sort of night it was. Walked in there, and they had these canisters with the light. It's like, shit, what's going on here? And it was unbelievable.
What was the rules back then like as far as clubbing? Was it like 2 p.m. curfew? Was it
2 p.m? Yeah, it was
2 a.m. Sorry,
2 a.m. I don't understand how. Well, the Hacienda didn't, but I don't know how clubs actually made money. When you shut at 2. If we were closing warehouse budget down at 2, it's not financially viable. But then I suppose bars were closing at 11, so people would go to clubs earlier.
So the Hacienda didn't, I've seen that on 24-hour party people, but why didn't it make money? Because they were just spending too much on the DJs and...
No, it wasn't on the DJs. I've never looked at their P&Ls. I'm not very good at P&Ls, but hats off to them. It wasn't... I don't think it was intended as a business to generate a lot of income. It was to do something special, something different. And they did that.
Tony Wilson's approach was completely different, wasn't it?
I've got in my office at home a roll of sellotape. That I'll bring next time I'm in, I'll bring it in actually. And when the Hacienda was about to go bankrupt, He went out and got yellow branded sellotape.
Right.
Now, when you go about to go bankrupt, you look at every single penny you're selling, you're spending to try and pay bills.
Yeah.
No, it's like, let's go and get some branded sellotape. And that sits on my desk, and that sort of, for me, sums up the Hacienda.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's like his ethos was so not the conventional business approach that you would expect someone. Well, you've been in the promoting game a long time. You know what it is, and I find it fascinating how successfully he actually became considered. He's writing his record deals in his blood, and
yeah,
it's just a crazy approach to the music business, which is it's a tough game at the best of times.
It is, but isn't it nice how everyone still talks about him or respects him?
Yeah.
And I know that the last time I saw him, actually, he used to have this dog. And I don't think it was me personally, because a few other people told me this.
Yeah.
Dog would bite anyone.
Right.
And it was, is it called a Vajrama? It was like a purpley looking dog.
Yeah.
Quite a vicious thing. And he brought it into Store Street, where Warehouse was.
Yeah.
2007, Easter 2007. Mm-hmm. And I remember looking at him, and it was quite sad to see how frail he was.
Yeah.
But yeah, he loved Store Street. He thought it was fantastic. He bought a bloody dog again, and it bit me every time.
What's the plans with Warehouse?
So we're going to announce it in a few weeks.
Yeah.
It's at Mayfield again this year. Sam's in the office now, busy away, booking it. Sam Rich, I don't know how they do it. The lineups, I've seen the lineups. And I don't think this year will ever be beaten.
Really?
Yeah. I can say that confidently.
Can you give us any idea who we can expect on the lineup?
No. None whatsoever.
You got to try though, haven't you?
Yeah. No, people that, this, you'll be able to tell me which DJ is going to be there. Well, yeah. And, but there's, we've got all the usual suspects. Yeah. But the way they've done it this year, there's some special curveballs in there.
Okay, amazing.
And then, this isn't another thing. People, when we announce lineups, sometimes people go, "Well, same old 10 names."
Yeah.
But they're the 10 best names in the world. What do you want us to do? Start booking,
the second 10, the 10 best below that. Or?
Yeah. When Sam Rich are creating these immense lineups.
Yeah. Well, it's an iconic event, Warehouse now, isn't it? And it has to be, you have to have the number one acts in the world on that show.
You've got to, but when you look at the lineup as well, we do support grassroots, local. You and I spoke before we started about our friend Salado.
Yeah.
They started at Warehouse Project.
Yeah.
I can give you a long list of artists who, we've booked when they weren't known.
Yeah.
Calvin Harris, David Guetta, Florence and the Machine.
Yeah.
Calvin Harris, I'll tell you the story with that, 2006.
Yeah.
First year at Boddington's. We'd already put New Year's Eve on sale.
Yeah.
And yourself, you program an event, so everything's scheduled by time. And my friend Mike Pickering phoned me up, who used to be a DJ at the Hacienda, then M People, and at the time was head of A&R at Sony, and he's like, "Look, can you put this guy on for me?" Just discovered someone in Scotland. I'm like, "Well, we can't, Mike, because it's fully programmed."
Yeah.
No, please put him on. So in the end, doors didn't open until 9:30. We put him on at 9.
Yeah.
Right, so he thought he was playing, he thought maybe people just haven't turned up. We hadn't even opened the doors. And we gave him 200 quid. He gave us a train ticket that we argued with because he wanted paying first class. We never agreed first class. We agreed a train ticket, so we gave him standard money for it. And that was Calvin, and he now gets £1.2 million every time he DJs.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
It's funny.
Wow. And how many years has Warehouse been going now?
Since 2006.
Is it 2006?
2006 at Boddington's.
Wow.
And then before that, I had Sankey's 2000 to 2006.
Yeah. So that was like the natural evolution of that, wasn't it? From Sankey's into Boddington's.
I think so. Yeah, when I was at Sankey's, you speak about Wilson before.
Yeah.
For me, and I'm biased, but I've always felt that Greater Manchester has got the best music scene in the UK.
Yeah.
I've always thought that.
Yeah.
If you go to a club in London or something, it's more what you wear or who you're with. And
it's not got the soul that Manchester.
It's not. So, and we've always tried to recreate that. And there was a lull at Sankey's. I became very, very bored, probably 2004. When you lose your passion in something, there's no point carrying on. When you know in your own mind it's gone, it's gone. Yeah. And the whole scene was becoming very stale. There was no one doing anything new. And we had put up a warehouse party on in 2003 on Pollard Street. It's actually where they filmed 24 Hour Party People. We did it in there. We sold 12,000 tickets. And I really liked that. The sound systems were brought in on the back of lorries. Everything was really temporary. How we pulled this off, I've no idea. But it was a moment that was creative. We could just be let loose on it. So when I said, you know, I've had enough of Sankey's, I'm going to sell my shares to my then business partner, Sam, who's my business partner now, said, well, look, if you're going, I'm going, why don't we do a few more warehouse parties like we did in 2003? So the actual story, the true story is, okay, let's do 4 or 5 and pay a few bills before we decide what we want to go and do.
Right. So it was supposed to be an intermediary, like little stopgap project.
The idea was that was it. It was supposed to be a project, right? So
hence the warehouse project.
Let's do this project. Sam went down to London the week after. With a Googled image of a warehouse. Didn't even exist. Right. Not in the UK. There was like Berlin or somewhere. Showing all the agents, we've got this, they're going to do this, this, this. Meanwhile, I had to scramble around and try and find a warehouse. I found Bonningson's Brewery. Luckily. And he got carried away and he booked 24 shows. Wow. And we sold 100,000 tickets. And what was supposed to be a project, a warehouse project.
For like 5 months or something.
It was done.
Wow.
That was it. And that was, you know.
That's a legacy.
We've been prisoners ever since.
Can you see a future without the warehouse project for you? Or do you think that's it? You put your flag in the ground and that's going to stay?
We've always said from day one, things don't last forever. You know, we know that. They don't last forever. And that one moment when we see it tip very, very slightly, we're going to stop it. We're not going to carry on. Because there would be nothing more heartbreaking than seeing something you've spent your life working on. It's a bit like watching United now. I'm going to kill for that. And I am a Red. But, you know, it's like when you've been so passionate and you've thrown everything into something, we're not going to see it deplete away. And that's why we took a big step in 2019 when we were at Store Street, capacity 2,500. And we took it to Mayfield, capacity 10,000. That was a make or break moment for us because it could have lost its atmosphere. Store Street, I know you used to go to it. It was intense, wasn't it? But every single year we always say, well, how do we improve ourselves? We don't want to go stale. It's not just the lineups, it's the sound, the light, the production, the speed at the bar, toilets, entry systems, all different things. And we could not have improved Store Street anymore. Now, we know we could have stayed there in 2019. And it sounds cocky, we know we would have sold the tickets, but we were treading water, and that would have been the end. So we ripped it up and said, no, we're going to start something new. And people love Mayfield. It's
so that's, and when's the first one of them, the first warehouse this year?
I haven't said. You tried to sclep me up then, didn't you? So
you're still not out. But it's going to be big.
The lineups, it's going to be big.
So Sacha, how did your role as a nighttime economy advisor come about? Because you've been so busy doing all these different promotion projects. How have you found the time?
No, I'll tell you. So I've been a promoter now for 26 years in Greater Manchester, and I was seeing things that didn't sit right with me. So we are the 5th biggest industry in the UK. That's it.
Is it the 5th biggest industry in the UK?
Nighttime economy is the 5th biggest industry in the UK. So when you look at Manchester, for example, Greater Manchester, it employs north of 420,000 people. But there were some, I call them the suits, the mothballs, that weren't given us justice. You know, it's not just when you put Parklife on, forget what happens in Eaton Park. But during that weekend, you know, £17 million is generated for the taxis, hotels, local businesses, people buying new outfits and things like that. So there's a whole ecosystem around it, and people weren't understanding that. So when it was decided Manchester was going to get devolved powers, Greater Manchester, I went to a few of the hustings, and I was saying to, you know, the people that mattered, you know, would you support the idea of like a nighttime economy task force that could advise directly and support this industry? Anyway, luckily for us, Andy won.
Yeah.
And it is lucky because you probably know he's a massive gig goer.
Yeah.
He understands his music very well.
Yeah.
And very, very sadly, probably I think within 2 weeks, there was the attack on our city region.
Yeah.
May the 22nd at the arena, and there was the One Love concert.
Yeah.
Probably 10 days after that.
Yeah.
And to me, the One Love concert was incredible. It was absolutely amazing. There were 50,000 people there, and it was watched globally. And I went there, but it felt very much an international event for me.
Did.
You know, Miley Cyrus.
It really did.
Timberlake, Katy Perry.
It was the first Mancunian world stage event in a while.
It was, but the week after that I had Parklife.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do something that felt more just for Manchester almost.
Yeah.
So I invited a lot of the first attenders who were there on that night.
Right.
The paramedics, taxi drivers, local residents that opened the doors up to help people out, counsellors, ambulance service, and I got them all on stage. And by coincidence that year, Sam had booked 1975, obviously got Manchester connections. So I said to Andy, look, as our mayor, will you come on stage, say thank you to everybody?
Yeah.
I will never to this day, it's on YouTube actually, if you I looked at it yesterday.
We'll put the link in the description.
Yeah, if you have a look at it's 10 minutes of my life I'll never forget.
Yeah.
80,000 people there at a festival, and you could hear a pin drop. It was emotional. You'll see everyone on stage crying, and that was not tears of sadness, that was tears of joy.
Yeah.
We'd beaten them.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. And Andy came on, and that's when the conversation started. You know, what do you think about this? What do you think of that? And we had a few coffees, and then literally 12 months after, he said, do you want to take the role on?
Yeah.
I always thought it'd be a committee of people, but he asked me to do it, and I've never looked back. And I have to say, practically everything, because I do come up with stupid ideas, and he does tell me it's stupid, and he is right. Yeah. But most of the ideas,
speaks his mind, doesn't he, Andy?
He says it as it is, and that's the way it should be. Yeah. But most of the ideas I've said, I think this would be a good idea. He's done it, and I'll give you an example. You know, the Metrolink. Pre-COVID, at Christmas time, he extended it an extra hour. Yeah. Because I was saying, look, Andy, there are people that work in restaurants who, by the time they finish, they've got to pay for a taxi to get home. So why can't they have the Metrolink? And it's safe as well for them. You know, and most of those people are getting minimum, if not living wage. He extended the Metrolink. He didn't have to do that. And I can tell you there were lots of people pushing against it. He said, no, I'm doing it.
He really understands the cost of transport, doesn't he, Andy?
He gets it. And, I'm not going to turn this into, a Wheel of Andy conversation, but people say to me, we'll sum him up. What do you like about Andy? And I saw something 2 weeks ago. Yeah. And this one particular moment summed it up. Yeah. You'll know this. When you meet artists or known people or politicians, a lot of them act differently when they're on the stage to backstage, whether they're in front of the camera to behind the camera. Yeah. Andy's one of us. Yeah. He's the same person whether he's on the camera or off the camera. Yeah, he is. And this particular moment I saw just recognises that. So for his campaign, I had to go to Rawtenstall 2 Mondays ago. Right. We sat in a beer garden for conversation. Yeah. It was me, Andy, and a guy called William Lees Jones. Now, because of social distancing, the staff brought 2 tables from different areas together, put all the chairs around and stuff, and we sat having this conversation. Yeah. And I'd taken my jacket off, and at the end of the conversation, I'd literally picked my jacket up and I turned around to Andy's director of office, Kevin. I was talking to Kevin about the United game the night before and how things were going and stuff like that. And everyone was doing the wrong thing. And when I turned around to look, Andy gone off, and Andy was putting the tables and chairs back to where they should be. And I was thinking, that is our mayor of Greater Manchester. He's one of us. He's got
no ego at all, has he?
None whatsoever.
The only thing that I was thinking that people, just from conversations that I'm having, I've not done any mega research into this, but I get the feeling that a lot of people may not vote this year. And I feel like maybe that could be a problem for him. I think that if people aren't actually going out and voting, then, ultimately for him to get back in, he needs people to actually...
He needs the vote. And I think, obviously, you know where my loyalties lie, and I think people know where I'll be voting. But I'd say to everybody, you know, remember that moment back in, I think it was November, when the government tried to twist that week. And when Andy was stood there on the steps, speaking passionately about not just Greater Manchester, but I think for the North. You know, that particular moment, the government twisted it and tried to say...
They tried to vilify him.
Yeah, they tried to make him a demon. It was all about his £5 million, and then he swiped the money off the table. And
the money-grabbing mayor and all of that.
It was not that.
No.
What he was saying was, why is it right that people in Greater Manchester have got to accept 2/3 of the money when the rest of the country gets 80%? And actually 3 weeks later, he was proven right. That is what happened. So, you know, I'd say to people next...
Well, what they offered him behind closed doors, and he said, look, this is what we need to make it work, to make sure that everyone gets a living wage, that everyone can pay the bills, everyone can pay the rent or the mortgage. We need to reach X amount of government support. They then said, once they decided that they were going to remove his consent or the powers of the mayor to say, yes, we do agree with the government, and they were going to impose it on us, and it was for a fraction of what they'd actually offered in the first place.
Exactly. It was nonsense. It was bullying tactic. But for one person to stand up like that, you know, it was a phenomenal moment.
No one else in the UK did it, did they?
No one.
He was the only person in the UK that stood up.
And I don't get that. I mean, the week that followed that, he was in Vogue. What's that about? I don't get it. And women were coming up to me and going, bit of all right, that Burnham. Hang on a second.
He became the king of the North, though, didn't he?
King of the North. There were beers for him. There were posters in windows. It was, phenomenal moment.
And I think it was almost like it was that moment there that really he embodied what Manchester Spirit's about for me. I think that's when, obviously I've known Andy for a while, but this was the sort of the moment I thought, you know what, this is our mayor, and this is why we have devolved power, and this is why it is important that we have a face who's symbolic of what it means to be.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, that particular moment, I think he galvanised the city. And it's not right that some of his competitors at the moment, is that the right word, competitors, other candidates, are saying grandstanding. That wasn't grandstanding, that was standing up job for what was right.
Exactly.
You know, when you've got the Conservative candidate there saying, oh yeah, I just agree with the government, you can't, well, then you would have agreed that we've got less than the rest of the country. It's wrong. So that's not grandstanding, that's sticking your head above the parapet and fighting for the people. It
feels like this government, and I don't want to get on like some big anti-Tory rant because it's not very...
I've got all day.
I still want Tories to watch this. It all counts to the views. But no, I mean we were saying it off camera before. What I find quite unfathomable that, you know, this is the UK. We have led the world culturally, technologically, for a long time. We've been innovators in so many different areas, in so many different industries, that how have we so pathetically failed with the management of this pandemic? Our world-beating app, it was like a Sega Master System project. It looked that crap.
Do you know what,
22 billion for that?
You're right, and I don't understand how they're getting away with it, and I don't think they will. I think there will be a moment where it's diagnosed, but they're getting away with it. And
how can people continue? As I said this to Andy when he was on the show the other week. I said, how can we, as a population, continue to follow a government that is so unbelievably, blatantly flawed?
We can't do. And you know what? Pre-COVID, if you were sat at home watching the 10 o'clock news, and there was another country somewhere, and it's like 10 o'clock news, you know, the 22 billion here, and the cabinet ministers have given 2 billion to his mate that runs the pub down the road and handed this out. We'd get that would never happen in England.
Well,
happening.
Exactly. I'm not even going to say what countries that would be, but we both know what sort of countries that would be happening
This is happening.
It's like we're becoming a failed state.
It's £66,000 to renovate. It's not even your own money to renovate your flat.
Exactly.
Spend £6,000 on an armchair. What does the armchair do?
£6,000 on an armchair.
£6,000 on an armchair.
So has he used government money for that, or taxpayers' money for that?
I don't know is the honest answer, but
Is this what the allegation is?
Yeah.
So what will be the consequences? So he's used X amount of taxpayers' money.
£66,000, but now a party donor has come in.
And suddenly balance the books.
And then Boris has come back. Well, I'll pay it back, and it stinks.
Oh, can I get a loan from the taxpayer then?
I'll lend you
£66,000?
£6,000 for an armchair if you want. Yeah.
And this is our Prime Minister.
Prime Minister. And that comment he made, which is denied, but too many people.
Oh, let the bodies pile high.
Let the bodies pile high. We're not having another lockdown. It's not.
Do you think he said it?
Yeah, I do.
If you were a betting man, would you bet he said it?
I don't bet, but I would absolutely say yes.
Right.
He said it. I think they're cruel. I really do.
It just doesn't add up.
It doesn't. We said this before we started. When Andy appointed me, I was never interested in politics.
No.
And I'm still not. I'm tunnel visioned.
Yeah.
It's my sector is hospitality. That's all I know. I sit there and I watch him debate all sorts of things.
Yeah.
I know nothing about buses.
Yeah.
I know nothing. How he knows all this stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Right. Ask me about putting a poster up.
Yeah.
Or
putting on a night.
Putting on a night. I can tell you how to do it, or a festival. He knows about everything across the board.
That's the difficult thing, isn't it? How do you understand so much about so much?
He's a smart guy.
Yeah. And he's been in the game for a long time, hasn't he?
Well, that's why we're lucky, because he knows how to push the buttons down in Westminster.
Yeah.
Down in Whitehall.
And he knows how it works.
He does. Don't forget, he's been in the cabinet.
Yeah.
So he knows exactly how the system works.
Do you think he would have been do you think he could be Prime Minister in the future? This people talk about this all the time.
I get asked.
All the time. People say, well, will he be Prime Minister one day?
Pre-COVID,
Yeah.
the question I used to get asked the most is, can I have a guest list?
Yeah.
Now is he going to be Prime Minister?
Yeah.
And does he dye his hair?
I think
That's what people are asking me. I don't know. I have no idea.
I think a lot of people
He doesn't
want him
dye his
to be.
hair, by the way. I've asked him.
He doesn't?
He doesn't, no.
Okay.
No. Do you know what? He would make the most phenomenal Prime Minister.
I think he would.
He absolutely would. But it would be a loss to Greater Manchester, because we right now we need leadership.
But we can
He's
only
the
have him
best.
for 3 more years.
Yeah, unless of course we handcuff him to his desk.
Yeah. Because he can only do 2 terms?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Is it? All right.
Yeah, I'd be disappointed if that was the case.
Yeah. I don't know maybe I'm wrong on that. I might be wrong on that. I thought I read that somewhere that you can only do 2 terms, but maybe not. Maybe you can stay on. I just hope that people actually go out and vote.
I think they will. I think coming out of COVID, I'd urge everybody to vote. Everyone has to have the say. And I've watched the debates, some of the other candidates, not the Tories, but they've been respectful.
Yeah.
They've agreed.
Yeah.
Which is nice to see.
Yeah.
On several items. So yeah, it's a big day.
Yeah.
It's a big day to vote.
So you're saying to me now, and I'm gonna quote you on this, because if this ever changes in the future, we'll pull this up.
I know what you're going to say.
All right.
I know what you're going to ask.
So you say you're fully focused, tunnel visioned on hospitality.
100%.
100%.
110%.
110%. So at no point in the
I keep
future,
getting asked this. At no point in the future,
you're going to win into politics.
not a chance.
No.
Not a chance. It's too divided. It's too divided.
Yeah.
And I see some of the crap Andy has to put up with.
Yeah.
Talking about someone that gives 15% of his salary
Yeah.
to help people on our streets, and he gets crap for it. Is that
Doesn't
I
make
don't
any
want
sense,
that.
does it?
It doesn't, and I don't want that.
Yeah.
He's got broader shoulders than me.
You want to be freedom, don't you?
Yeah. Yes.
Amazing. Thank you, Sacha. This has
Not
been
a
brilliant.
problem. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Cheers, mate.
God.